Hi everybody, welcome to today's presentation on UX best practices for bidirectional languages. My name is Gilad and I'll be going over what makes a great user experience for speakers of bidirectional languages. Let's start off with a quick bio. As I said, my name is Gilad. I'm a software internationalization consultant out of Israel. I'm also the chairperson for the Standard Institute of Israel Hebrew Support and Computerized System Committee, where we're working to standardize um, user experiences for bidirectional languages. Previously, I spent about 17 years at Microsoft working in various internationalization positions, including quality assurance and program management on products such as Windows, Xbox, and Surface. I always like to start off with a quick overview of the BIDI market. The BIDI market is quite large. It's 27 countries, 450 million speakers, and four primary languages. So when it comes to UX challenges, designers and developers have to take into consideration two main elements. The first has to do with the fact that Arabic, Hebrew, and Farsi require bidirectional text support. That's the ability to read and write text from right to left, but also read and write text from left to right. The second element has to do with the UI layout. For bidirectional languages, the UI layout has to be reoriented or mirrored so that it flows from right to left. So let's start off with UI mirroring, and in this section we're going to be discussing when and how to mirror the UI. One of the most common questions I get is, when should I apply UI mirroring? Should I localize my text and then apply UI mirroring, or should I apply UI mirroring and localize my text later? So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. Well, we're here in the Middle East, so I replaced the chicken and egg with the pita and hummus. Which one came first? So I put together a couple of guidelines to make it really clear on when to apply UI mirroring. So always mirror UI if you localize UI strings, and avoid localizing UI strings if mirroring is not enabled, because it makes quite a poor user experience. So what are the benefits of mirroring the UI? Well, simply put, it allows for the information to be presented in a pattern that's already familiar to users. Arabic and Hebrew flows from right to left, which means that the reading pattern always starts from the top right and progresses to the left. On this slide, we have a couple of screenshots. On the left, you have the English Tinder UI, and on the right, you have the Hebrew Tinder UI. And as you can see, some of the elements have been repositioned so that the entire UI flows from right to left. So, for example, the Tinder logo on the top right has been repositioned from the top left. And also at the bottom, you can see that the menu has been repositioned so that the swipe UI is on the right and the profile is on the left. When it comes to Tinder, one of the interesting things is the fact that Tinder has a swipe right trademark. And so when it comes to UI mirroring, that has to be put into consideration. So when it comes to swipe direction, you actually want to retain identical behavior to the swipe direction on English, so that the trademark is being honored and that you can use that for marketing. You also want to make sure that to retain identical photo carousel direction, and also identical action icon positioning, so that you have consistency across the UI and directionality. So one of the things that I get to do as a consultant is take a look at all the different platforms and see how they implemented BIDI support. And so in this table here, you can see that a lot of things went really well, but there are a couple of places where we need to work on making sure that the user experience is consistent. When it comes to section headers, you want to make sure that those flow from right to left. And in this iOS screenshot, we can see that that hasn't been implemented correctly. The second thing you want to make sure is that the grid also flows from right to left, so top right to bottom left, so that it flows with the entire UI in a more natural way. When it comes to UI mirroring, one of the interesting things is that the fact that touch gestures, for example, can go awfully wrong. On the left-hand side, you can see the iOS UI, and the user is actually swiping to the right while the UI is moving to the left. So you do want to pay special attention to functionality testing when you're done implementing UI mirroring. So buttons and sliders all have to be mirrored with the exception of media controls, and those we'll discuss a little bit later. And as you can see here with the screenshot, we have a couple of sliders highlighted. Both the distance and the age sliders on the iOS implementation are currently flowing from left to right. They should be flowing from right to left, and so that should be a quick fix, but should make the user experience quite better for the users of BIDI languages. So back buttons and chevrons also get mirrored. One way of implementing mirroring here is maybe to expose them to localization and having them just replacing the directionality on those buttons. And as you can see in the screenshots here from the Android app, you can see that the back button on the setting dialog is pointing in the wrong direction. Also on the second screenshot, you can see that there's a couple of chevrons that are pointing in the wrong direction. All of those could be exposed to localization and have them replace those so that they point in the right direction. Horizontal progress controls are typically mirrored, again with the exception of media controls, and I didn't see a lot of those in the Tinder UI, but thought it would be a great idea to include that anyway. So yeah, they have to flow from right to left, and the other thing you want to consider is that if you're displaying any kind of percentage symbol, those have to be readjusted when it comes to Hebrew compared to Arabic. There's a little bit of a difference there. The Arabic percent symbol is going to be placed to the left, and on Hebrew it's just like English, it's on the right. Circular progress indicators have to be displayed in a clockwise manner, and so no differences there, again with the exception of the percent symbol representation if you have one displayed. So rating and page selectors aren't really available on Tinder app, but I wanted to include this anyway. So both page selectors and rating have to flow from right to left. Pay attention to the top right example where you can see how the numerals were rearranged so that they flow from right to left. Media controls are the exception to UI mirroring because media controls inherit layout arrangement from audio and video hardware that's available in the market. So essentially nothing gets rearranged. It's actually quite awkward when you do, for example, mirror the play button, and or if the progress indicator is flowing from right to left. So you do want to make sure that you're retaining left to right directionality when it comes to anything that has to do with media controls. In this next section, we're just going to be going over what makes a great user experience when it comes to text handling and BIDI support. Let's start off with a little bit of terminology, just a couple of terms. So BIDI stands for bidirectional text support. Text alignment refers to the horizontal positioning of text. Text layout actually refers to the text reading order and how the words are arranged in a sentence. LTR and RTL refer to left to right, right to left. Those are just like short acronyms. So let's start off with the basics. BIDI languages flow from right to left. That's pretty easy and simple. So one of the most common scenarios is for an English term to be embedded inside a Hebrew sentence, for example. And so what happens here is that the reader is going to be reading from right to left, and then when they reach the English word, or in this case I think it's Swedish because this is the IKEA catalog, they're going to be reading the word besta from left to right. And then when they're done reading that word, they're going to just continue reading from right to left. BiDi languages pose a unique challenge for text trimming because you always want to make sure that you're trimming the trailing edge of a string. That being said, a user, like for example in the chat UI, might be inputting English text or Hebrew text, and so you want to make sure that your trimming mechanism is actually trimming the trailing edge rather than the leading edge. Because if you're trimming the leading edge, that makes for quite poor user experience. Certain text blocks require the ability to align and lay out text automatically based on the content language. So if you're displaying BiDi languages, you want to automatically align to the right. And if you're displaying English, for example, you want to automatically align to the left. What we have here is a sample of like a notification UI, and you can see the difference between the left to right and right to left layout, and also the differences between the source text and how it's aligned based on the language. when it comes to the Tinder bio card, for example, you want to make sure to have the ability to automatically align the user's content or the user's bio text based on the language and not based on the UI. And what we have here are four examples of how this is currently implemented in iOS. So the top two examples are really simple. You have the Tinder English UI with Tinder English text on the bio card. That's the top right example. And then if you look at the top left example, you have the Hebrew UI with Hebrew bio card. Also looks great. But then the bottom two examples, this is where things get mixed up, where the content of the bio card doesn't match the app UI language. So you have, for example, on the bottom right, you have the English Tinder UI with a Hebrew bio card, and that Hebrew bio card is aligned incorrectly to the left. The chat user experience is probably one of the most sensitive parts when it comes to automatic text alignment and layout. And so when you're displaying BIDI language text, you want to make sure that that's automatically aligned to the right. And if you're displaying English text, you want to make sure that that's automatically aligned to the left. But one of the most common problems is that this kind of alignment isn't retained across the entire user experience. So for example, if I'm sending a Hebrew text chat to somebody with the English app, you want to make sure that that Hebrew is displayed correctly on the English UI from right to left and vice versa. Text input fields also require the ability to automatically adjust based on the user's input language. And so if you're inputting BIDI language, you want to make sure that text input field is automatically adjusted to the right. And or if you're inputting English text on that same text field, you want to make sure that it can align to the left automatically. Most modern operating systems all have that built in, so developers don't have to do much. What you do want to pay attention to is positioning of certain UI elements that are embedded within those input fields, so that in the case where the text direction is adjusted, you don't have any overlapping that occurs when the cursor is on either corners of the text input field. I wanted to finish off with a bunch of links to BIDI support on different platforms. And in addition to that, I completed a review of Tinder on Android, iOS, and web, and highlighted all the different issues that have to be fixed. Those links are going to also be sent out with the presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be glad to start working on some of the issues with you and come up with some great solutions and a much better user experience for BIDI users on Tinder. Thanks.